Welcome back, everyone, to Horrifically Well Read, Bled, and Said. Today we have a guest that does it all. She is an amazing writer. She owns her own bookshop and now has started her own press. Thank you and welcome Stephanie Rose to the show.
We love
Thank
a
you
we
so much
love
for
a
having me.
talented woman.
Why, thank you.
So, based on sort of reading your bio and your books and stuff like that, I have a little bit of an idea, but let the listeners know what is your history with horror? Has this been a lifelong love affair?
I would say the lifelong love affair began when I was about 5 or 6 years old, being babysat by my Aunt Julie. And we had one of those couches at my grandma's house and like one of those raised old couches. So, like, I would squirm under. She would tell me to go to bed. And I think my whole life would be different if she wasn't into horror. Like, once if she just watched rom coms or like action movies, which is nothing wrong with any of those, but she loved horror. So she'd put me to bed with my goosebumps and my, Are You Afraid of the Dark and all that stuff, anything related to that. And she'd watch Nightmare on Elm Street, Child's Play, Halloween. And so I would hear the music and I would crawl out because I would know she started the movie and I'd watch it all under there, just completely enamored, and then go back to bed. And she didn't know about it for years. It was so
I
great.
love.
So that's where it started.
So, we've talked to a bunch of people that kind of said that because it was like a family member, kind of like what you're saying, that introduced them, that they kind of see horror as this very, like, almost comforting presence. I think of the way you describe it, it's almost like horror movies were like a blanket themselves to put you to sleep. Do you still see horror that way, that it's this sort of calming place?
Absolutely, and that's a really wonderful way to say it. It's like a weighted blanket for anyone that has anxiety or depression or
Mm,
trauma, and I used it as that. I grew up in a very emotionally abusive, mostly emotionally abusive household, and a lot of getting away from that was going to bed early and having a goosebump book under my pillow and my flashlight, and I would just escape into that, and that would get me to sleep, and that was like a constant for like 3 or 4 years of having those books to rely on. Like, I met R.L. Stein once and I told him he saved my life
mm.
because he did, and it was just, and I graduated from that to Fear Street. I didn't pick up my first Stephen King book until I was probably, I think, even almost 30, and I'm 40 now. So, like, he was very late for me because he wasn't my generation, more so like Fear Street and Arl Stein was. But now, even, especially right now, horror films and books, I am very much into both, very much provide a just sense of security and calmness. And I think there's people that write specific kinds of horror that I would deem more like cozy horror. It's not that they're not scary,
Mhm.
it's that they still have this underlying feeling of making me feel good. And a few of Rachel Harrison's, I think, fall into that category for me. And again, they are scary, they're wonderfully written, but they have this, like, it's like a hug from a person who's flawed, a lot of her protagonists. And it's like they're hugging me and telling me, hey, it's okay to be flawed and it's okay to be messed up and not okay, and it's like having a family member that I don't have in my life when I read her books, if that makes any
It
sense.
completely
So it's
does.
very
Yeah.
it's very soothing.
I love
Yeah.
that. And like, I think like when you described that a little bit, I'm like, wait a second, did you grow up in the same house that I did? Because
Are you my long lost brother?
that was 100% my house as well. We looked it up, and this term that Rebecca and I discovered as we're trying to kind of figure it out
Yeah.
was ambient abuse, where it was like it was the almost like the vibes and the feel in the house
Yes.
were very like, at least for me, it was very much like my bedroom's upstairs, and it was sort of like, what am I going to walk down into every day? Like, what is
Yeah.
the
Right.
emotional mood going
Yeah.
to be? And so, like, even though in Goosebumps, it was same thing for me, where it was very much like, yes, it was spooky, yes, it was creepy, but there was, and I don't know if it's the tone, if it's, where they take place, those kinds of things, but it was very much this sort of like the stability that I looked for at home, I could find in those books.
Well, and it's like absolutely, like, I had because of my childhood, I have a startle reflex now, and I was walking on eggshells around my house, same kind of thing. And I think with Goosebumps especially, that I think there's this formula to it. It's like slashers. It's like any formula to any type of horror. You have to have A, B, and C. And if you have all of those things, then you know how it's gonna turn out. So with Goosebumps, it's like you know how R.L. Stein's going to end every single Goosebumps book. Like you know everything's going to turn out okay, or there's going to be a spooky, like weird, campy
Yeah.
ending. But like even as a kid, you knew what to expect. And I think with every kind of horror, I mean, not every author, not every horror book, but in general, there is a formula to the type of horror that whatever you're drawn to. Like I'm more drawn to slashers and found footage, and other people are drawn to haunted houses or paranormal or exorcists or whatever. But those types of books and films usually have a formula to follow that you can expect.
Yeah, and that's so funny because once again, slashers and found footage are my favorite and what I always look forward to. um,
Yeah.
and I think that, and I wonder if there's a specific reason for that for someone that does have anxiety or kind of the similar feelings. Because when we think of slashers, we think of the final girl kind of standing up against this evil in a way, and like in a way that's kind of comfortable for the viewer. And I think that maybe for someone
Hmm.
that, again, is looking for that stability, like that's something that we would be drawn to more. What do you think about that?
No, I definitely agree. I think that for me, like just the other night, I was, with all the news going on right now, I was like, I need to, like, I can't just sit there and read a whole book. I can't read for long periods of time,
Hmm.
unfortunately. It's just like the way I am. I have to read for like 30, 45 minutes, then I stop, do something else, and I'll come back. So I do reading sprints. But for, I ended up rewatching because I've been on a kick of, I haven't been that far into it, but I watched the first few episodes of the new season of Wednesday. So I had Jenna Ortega on my mind and I watched Scream 5 and 6. And I did that because, I wanted to feel those feelings. I've seen them before. I know what to expect. I can't sit and read, a whole book in one sitting. Sometimes I will want to watch something. So I just recently watched at least the first episode of the new season of Wednesday. So I was on a Jenna Ortega kick, and I was just, the news lately has been horrible. And I'm like, at nighttime, it gets worse sometimes, and you don't know what you're going to wake up to. So I was just really having a bad anxiety panic day. And I was like, you know what? I'm really angry and I want something violent because I'm angry. I'm upset, but I'm also getting to be more angry lately. And so watching violence in a slasher is like, it's just, I don't know, it might sound messed up, but like I sit there and I see it and it's not I'm happy they're dying. I
Right.
just picture other people dying and me holding the knife. And then it's very therapeutic to watch it. And to see the badasses, they come back and they, the final girls and the friends and Scream, they fight. And I think there is so much parallel to slashers right now than to what's happening in the world too. To wanting to fight and being scared and not wanting to run away, but also being scared and wanting to be safe. So I think there's a lot of
Yeah.
different things in those.
Yeah.
So that's
I
why
mean,
they're
I
very
had
soothing
shared
for
this in
me.
another episode, but I was saying that a psychology professor that I had was saying that he would play hockey fights, like violent hockey fights at the bar, that it would diffuse the energy. And
Yeah.
so when you mention like watching this, that it helps to get it out like in a healthy way, like that makes a lot of sense.
Hmm. Yeah, it really does. And I mean, like I said, books do that too. It's just sometimes I need something quick and I will pick up a book and I will read it. And I'm reading a whole bunch of stuff right now, but I think that
Yeah.
sometimes it's nice to have
I
the
struggle to
visual
sit and watch things
of
for
a
long
film.
periods of time too. I don't know why that is, but I feel like claustrophobic. Like I can watch an episode of a
Hmm.
show and I'm like, that's fine. I think because I know it's like a nugget, it's a chunk size, right? But like if it's like a longer movie or whatever, I don't know. But
I think you said the same thing even about books, where you kind of have to trick yourself
I do.
and say, like, I'm going to get to page 25, I'm going to get to page 50.
Yep.
And,
Every single time. Now I will tell you with your book, I didn't struggle. I didn't struggle like that. And to me, that's like the merit of a good book. Like when I don't have to be like, shit, I got to give myself this like trick. Like I was immediately like, okay, this is getting read fast. Cause it was a page turner. It was like,
yeah, hiding lies you're talking about.
I
Yeah.
am talking about hiding lies. And Adam had said like, so just like my background here is like, I'm less of like the extremely gory horror, at least I thought, or just, like
Even movies, like,
Yes,
yeah.
like all that, right? He's like, look, I know you like to read the books like before everybody comes home,
Yeah.
but like I don't know about. And I was like,
I
well,
just said, I'm going to give you a warning.
you did,
It is dark.
you did. That's what you said, and I was like, no, I want to look at it and everything. And like by like page 5, I was like, oh yeah, I'm reading this.
Yeah.
Like I'm definitely reading this, and it was dark, and but it was like. For people that like to watch, let's just say an example, or listen to true crime, or even watch it on like ID Network, like you're just showing the real situation
Mhm.
here of what is actually happening. And so in a way, I kind of felt like from someone that didn't read some of these things like this before, I felt like, should I turn away? But I was like, I got to read it. Like I can't turn my eyes. Like I'm not on the screen, it's like, but everything you put in there, it was so like propulsive. It just made me want to keep going and figuring it out. And it was just, I'm not disappointed at all. I'm so glad I read it. I really am. And I'm glad I tried out a new genre of like, I can
Thank
handle
you
this.
so
This was
much. That really
good.
means a lot. Thank you. I think it's also it reminds me actually like the one scene that some people are very controversial and even calling it extreme horror, which I wouldn't call it extreme horror, but I think it might have some extreme horror elements is
Hmm.
there is a kid's death in it. And I didn't shy away
Yeah.
They
from that
do.
because kids get killed a lot. And in this In Hiding Lies, Adam is based on like three different serial killers, and FBI vault files is something anyone can search. You don't have to have a login or anything. And it's any kind of cases that are now public or became public during the trial. And it has like psychological evaluations and the evidence notes, like no like evidence photos or anything, but it has a lot of that. And I mean, you can see actual evidence photos of Ed Gein because it's so old now. So if you know where to look, and then so
Wow.
I compiled Adam is based on a real life killer and the behavior of a real life killer because my background's psychology
Dude,
too. So
that's
before library
awesome.
science, it was psychology, and I was a therapist for like 7 years. Yeah. So, it's scary and it's funny because it didn't get picked up by an agent. It actually got a full, like, they wanted the whole script, the whole script, the whole book. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, that's a good sign. And this is like 8 years ago. And they said, we love it, but we just don't think Adam's behavior is realistic for a
Joke's
serial
on
killer. And
you.
I'm like, okay, first of all, it is, but second of
Yeah.
all, like it's fiction. It shouldn't have to be realistic anyway. But I get that, like for fantasy, you can get away with making it ridiculous and be like, oh, well, it's magic. But like in thriller or horror or dark, whatever, you have to be able to say, like, okay, you can't have someone go, this really wouldn't happen. Because if they get that, they might get taken out of it. But I don't
Think
think
Adam
that was
came
the case
across
for
as
this. And that's fine
unrelatable at
that they
all.
felt
I
that
mean,
way.
he seems like the typical serial killer of charming, easygoing, knowledgeable. I mean, like the way that he
Yep.
like works at, this bookstore and just kind of like has, people like, oh, where can I camp? And he's like, oh, you don't want to deal with the traffic. Like, why don't you go? And I mean, he's just so easygoing. It's like, man, we're so glad we ran into you. It's just like, it's where it just, you don't see it coming, and I think that's for a lot of like situations
Right.
that you're in, you don't see it coming. I mean, isn't that how like,
Mhm. And that's why I really wanted his POV. Like, I
yeah.
wanted a POV of a killer in the
Well,
book.
I feel like there's
And
like
it's so funny you
inherently,
mentioned, "Oh, he works at the bookstore."
sorry,
I wrote
I
this 8 years
apologize. There's a
ago.
lag. Can you say that again?
No, no, you're fine. Go ahead. You go ahead.
Got your back. Okay. So go ahead. You were talking
Yeah,
about
I gotcha.
wanting it to have Adam's POVs.
Yeah, and that it was funny that you just mentioned that he was a bookseller, and I think it's funny that I wrote this book 8 years ago, and so many people, like, I don't wanna look at reviews, but I do. A lot of like, "Oh, this is like she just watched you and wrote a book and made it kind of like Criminal Minds." And I'm like, actually, that's a compliment to me because I love Criminal Minds and I love you. But I wrote this before Penn Badgley became Joe. I wrote it before that. But yeah, it didn't get picked up for a while. So it was in a drawer for a very long time. So it actually wrote it like about 8 years ago.
I love that, 8 years ago you write this and like so many things are falling into place. I wonder, when you said that the publisher and the agent and stuff asked for this, I know that it's not the heyday of serial killers as it was, in the 70s and 80s and stuff like that. But I feel like I wonder if the behaviors now are even more believable than they were 8 years ago because the world is such a different place than it was 8 years
Mm,
ago. I mean, I wish I could go back to 8 years ago in
right.
many ways, but, like, do you think that, it's almost a good thing because this is more of a time that something like this fits in?
Yeah, I definitely think that it's even more believable now. I think serial killers had a good run from the 70s. Like 70s were like the sweet spot and people can take that how it is. I love true crime, but I understand there's victims and there's killers, but I'm obsessed with all true crime because when I was a baby, a true crime case happened to me. But yeah, like
My
it
god.
just like yeah. So like 8 years ago, yeah, I wish it was 8 years ago. We'd be way not
Maybe
where we are
15
now,
years
but
ago.
especially with what's yeah, if we really wanna go back, let's go back to, like, the late '80s, early
Yeah,
2000s, like, that would be
right.
that's where I live all the time. I keep
Yes.
Right.
rewatching
That's
those
our
movies
comfort
and,
zone. Yeah.
oh, it's so great, like, I've rewatched so many movies around that time, and they're just some of them are trash, but I say trash, like, they're popcorn, that's what Stephen King says.
Yeah, but
They're
that's
light
like
and no
feeds
substance.
your soul.
It
Feels
Well, I
like
read
does.
a
somewhere
sweet
that
spot.
said it's not that the '90s movies were better, but the '90s made bad movies so much better than any other decade did. Like,
Yes,
just rewatchable, and it's like, oh, so
oh,
good.
yeah,
Well, it was
totally.
when you were saying like a run with like the serial killers and stuff. Ed was listening to this one podcast about the Tylenol murders,
Yeah.
and
There's actually a documentary on it now too
there
on, I
is
think,
now,
Netflix.
yeah, and so I feel like they're raising that, but um, or my daughter was like the other day was like why is there just every time that I want to use anything in this medical cabinet, like it's just full of plastic, and I was like, well. I was like, "It's for our safety," and she was like, "Why?" And I was like, "So," and she's like, "Okay, never mind." And it's like you can learn some good stuff from these too, but no, I mean, it's like there's always this nefarious sort of people that get off and just don't, it's like um whether it's like holding hostage for saying I'm not telling you what drugs, but I'm putting these chemicals in and killing people like not face to face, but knowing that
Right.
people are going to die from this. But no, I feel like your character. I mean, he was like the perfect amount of. He just really, I think, felt like he was being altruistic. Like he was, and there's that series that Butcher and Blackbird, which is like a lot more spice and whatever,
Mhm.
but. They're serial killers that kill serial killers. Like they're trying to like get rid and in that way, like they feel like they're doing something altruistic. And it's like it's surprising to me. Like, I'm sure there is a lot of whether it's like grandiosity that leads to thinking like, no, I'm doing good things for people. Like, I'm not a bad person. Like, I'm taking care of good things of society. Like, did that play into anything?
I think for me, like, he is altruistic, but I think it's more kind of a cover, like, he was lied to during his childhood, so anyone that lies
Right.
should not be part of anything, and for
Yeah.
him, he doesn't want the suffering to happen, so he does have some empathy, and that's why he ends up
Right.
killing the kids. It's not and he doesn't there's not it's not gratuitous, he doesn't love doing it, it's just but for
Right.
him, no, these kids are gonna be broken, they were lied
Yeah.
to, they have to die too, they are part of the lie, and that's his black and white thinking, and that's why he does it. So,
Yeah.
I think he has some fun with it when he's like, "Yeah, go here, this place is secluded." I think there's more, but when he gets into the actual violent crime part, it's more of an ends to a mean, not
Yeah. Well,
necessarily what he loves doing. Yeah.
the one kill, like the one relationship, um, he's watched the one person, like how they're going to like mother and what they're going to do. And
Mhm.
I mean, it doesn't take, a lot to see that, yeah, this is going to be a sort of messed up child that's going to grow up into a messed up adult. And, so it's like, that's going to happen, but like, does he deserve to die? But like how he's like thinking like, well, I'm just preventing the suffering. I'm just ending it for them. It's this, I love how you're playing with like these concepts of morality. That was really interesting to me.
Well, and it's because I think we've all wanted to kill someone. We don't need to name things. We don't want people coming after us, but I think we've all had homicidal thoughts. Doesn't mean we've act on them, but we've all had them. So my idea with Adam was, and Adam was way easier to write than Lydia, because Lydia is me and my trauma and my past. And that was me working through a lot of my trauma. So I
Okay.
don't really love to revisit the book in like reading it. I'm totally fine to talk about it and everything. I just like rewriting part of it was really hard and editing it was really, really hard. But I did it and I'm really proud of myself. And Small Town was kind of like who I am now. And like, I'm very much like Jenna. But like with Lydia,
Yeah.
it was really hard because I did revisit a lot of the things I will just say that happened to Lydia happened to me. And writing them and
Okay.
trying to go through that with her was really therapeutic, but it was hard. With Adam, it was more like my
Yeah.
bad side coming out of like, I really do think these things. I
Right.
don't always talk about them because it's not really something you talk about with people
Right.
unless you really know them. But I wanted people to read
Yeah.
Adam and be uncomfortable because they related to him.
Yeah, I think, one thing that as I read this, I read Hiding Lies last summer-ish, somewhere in that range, when the first iteration of it came out, and I read it
Yeah.
again now that you have your sort of like author's preferred version that's coming out, which I
Mhm.
love.
It's the Taylor's version, the Stephanie's version.
Exactly. That's why I called it that too, because of the version.
Yeah.
But I just read relatively recently Emma E. Murray's Shoot Me in the Face on a Beautiful Day. And I was thinking, like, both of these books, extreme horror, one of the things that I think sometimes people rightfully criticize it for is that it does revel in the violence. And, that's kind of the point of it. But I think both your book and Emma's book, you know exactly when it's coming,
Mhm.
what's going to
Mhm.
happen,
Mhm.
and you fucking dread it. And the way that you guys both write it is it's like it's necessary. It's like you play
Yep.
witness to it, but at the same time, there is no joy in the violence that occurs in either of these books. And I think that makes it so much more interesting
It
because it
is.
is the psychology behind it. It
It
is
is.
what is happening and how is this being allowed to happen? And all these kinds of things. Yeah.
Well, it's like, I don't like watching those torture films or torture movies because it's
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
who's getting off on enjoying this? For me personally, but reading something like what you wrote, Stephanie, it's like it's like you're witnessing what you were saying, Adam. It's
Yeah.
like pain or things that like needed to be processed, areas that we need to look at as like a
Mhm.
society.
And like you said, but having it being based on real cases, it's like these things are happening. It's like
Mhm.
this isn't like some wild out there scenario. It's like, while what is happening in both books is not exactly what's happened, something very similar has happened
Hmm.
somewhere.
And without giving like too much away, I found it to really interesting how Lydia um starts to, he starts to just kind of like weigh on her and just kind of
Mhm.
like impact.
Adam does.
Yeah,
Okay.
and Adam, sorry, and sway and just kind of, she's a smart girl, but she has traumas and she's a good person and but she's working through some things and like, just that charisma maybe that he has, like that just kind of, I don't want to say it's love bombing, but it's like, you know, she feels less othered and
Yeah.
things like that.
Someone
And
finally
so
kind of understands
yeah,
something about
and
her.
it's like, just how easy that is for any relationship to, "Oh my God, someone understands me. Someone finds us. Like I'm not, and even though I don't know, like it's just really hard because I'm realizing now that like, you're saying, okay, you're Lydia and you're processing through it. But I mean, overall, I feel like Lydia's incredibly victorious and comes out the way that, I think as a reader you would want her to, but you understand like all of her background and why I guess that's just what I liked about it so much.
Mhm.
It was a very raw book, but very real. And
Yeah.
just the pacing and everything was great.
Thank you. I really
Do you
appreciate that a lot.
do you think that's why the Stephanie Rose preferred version, perhaps that original version didn't kind of do that in the same way. Whereas now I think it does have that, the ending is probably the main difference here. And I think that it is much more fitting as to kind of what you were trying to do with this book. And I think both succeeded, but I really do like this second version and find that it ends the book in a way that really just leaves the reader sort of understanding what you were doing here.
So for the new ending, one of the things I wanted to go back through is take out some of the romance. I actually reread a lot of it and I'm like, oh, I don't need all of this in here. And like, I'm a
Mm.
very different person than I was when I wrote it as well. I think I'm much more
Okay.
jaded and dark and embracing my spooky horror self than I ever was before. I
Mm-hmm.
watch way more horror. I celebrate Halloween and horror year round. But for the ending, I actually am a people pleaser. And I did like the ending at first, but I got all this feedback of it was abrupt, it didn't have enough. We, didn't know, like, and then I reread it and I'm like, all right. And one person on YouTube, and I cannot remember her name, and I'm going to message her. I keep forgetting to, and tell her, hey, you're one of the reasons why I changed the ending. Cause it is legit. She made a point about the book. And I was like, yes, that's exactly what I really wanted to do, but I didn't know how to do. And then I thought of it and I was like, oh my gosh, I have a new ending. And this is so much more that this is what I actually really, this is what should have happened all along. So having so much time in between writing it made it a little bit easier to go back to. And I wanted to change the ending. And then I was like playing with the idea of doing a press. I was like, you know what? Maybe I can just, relinquish my contract with Maddox and, and do a new cover. And like when you change publishers, this is for anybody. It's not neither nor good or bad. But when you do that, either you have to change everything, like you have to go back to your manuscript, not edited at
Ooh.
all, unless you want to put their name in the book forever. And I'm like, well, I don't really, like if you look back at books and you see you'll even see like the name of the author or a small press, and then it's like Penguin Random House or something. It's because maybe they don't even have a manuscript for that anymore and they need to take the edited one and edit from that. But if you edit from anything, you have to give credit to whatever it is. So if you look in a book
That makes
and
sense.
if it's been republished a few times, you'll see other names. And I just didn't want I wanted just one name in there. That's kind of what it came down to. So that means I had to do my own cover and then do my own editing. Those are the main things. So
Okay.
because
Yeah.
of that, I started to look through the whole story and I was like, no, this is like cringe now. Some of the love scenes. I don't like writing romance at all anyway, but I needed to write it in this because it made sense, to have a scene at least. But like some of the other smaller scenes that lead up to the big scene, I was like, nope, we don't need that. We don't need that. We don't need that. And it was actually really nice. And then when rewriting the ending, I wasn't sure the new ending of exactly how it was going to go. I will say for anyone that hasn't read it yet, because it's not out yet, it's out September 9th, that I saw the cover before the ending was final. The new ending was final. And it inspired a very visual scene that I wanted to create in my
Mm,
ending.
it's a good
And if
scene
you've
too.
read
Yeah,
it,
and
you know,
that
yeah.
cover, the cover is stunning.
It's evocative,
Yeah, I'll
like for
tell you.
sure.
Yeah.
It's
Chad, I think his last name is Letsky. I don't know how to say his last name, but Chad Letsky, he's an author too, and I've read one of his books, and he does cover art. He does custom cover art, but he also does, pre-made covers, which a lot of people do now, which I think is awesome. And it's a, affordable way to have a really wonderful cover that's not
mhm,
AI. So I think it was
right.
amazing, and I love it so much.
You
So
deserve
that's
it.
kind of where
Like
the cover was too. Thank you.
it looks so good, and I just feel like I'll just say this to our listeners, like if you like thrillers and you like true crime and you're ready to get into like the psychology of, this serial killer Adam and, Lydia who's got some deep trauma too. It's like you'll be reading through this
Mm-hmm.
sucker like super fast. You won't regret listening to it. And like I said, there's going to be scenes where you want to like probably be like, I got to close my eyes, but it's also legit and
Mm-hmm.
real. And I don't think you celebrated like anything that didn't need to be and just like focused on. And so I'm always like a proponent of like, if you didn't think that you were a horror reader for this, or you think like this is too much, like I actually think this is a great one to like,
Yeah, and
I'm like, you should read it. Like
I think with both movies and books, I think that sometimes people watch and read bad ones or ones that don't have a lot of necessary certain skill that's involved. And I think that, when I read this book, Stephanie, I think like because there is, and now just hearing that there's so much of you in this, it's so
Mhm.
personal. There's so much research. And it's like I didn't know that reading it, but it is right there on the page for
Sure.
sure.
Yeah.
Like you feel that this is there is much more intelligence and there's much more heart than like a lot of books that you're like, oh,
I
so
was
it's
just gonna
definitely
say
one I would
that.
give.
I
Yeah.
was gonna say, like, these are characters that even though like hard things happened, like I feel like it's a book that I regularly am like, I'm so glad I read that. Like
Hmm.
it sticks at the top of
Oh,
my mind to be like, this was so good. This was like the writing was so good, the depth was so good.
Hmm.
And I don't feel that way about like every book. Like I have like 150 books read already this year and it's like August and yours
heck yeah.
continues to like bob to the top of
Yeah.
like, that was some good shit. Like it really was.
That, thank you. I think a lot
Yeah,
of
and I mean, it's
writers
like,
won't say it, but I have imposter syndrome almost every day when I read someone like
oh,
Rachel Harrison, and I'm like, I finished Play Nice while I was starting to do
yeah.
my I'm doing very loose planning on my fourth book because my third book is just on hold because it might become a novella, but it depends if I get approved for their submission, and I will know that in a few weeks. If not, I'm going to go back to it. But they wanted extreme horror and I was already working on something that I could make extreme. It just wasn't extreme yet. But I was like, ooh, I could go extreme here, 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 and here.
Mm,
So I was like, well, let me wait. And so now I'm working on book 4. But as I'm working on book 4 and just writing some scenes, that's how I'm starting out. I asked Brian McCauley, like, I was just like, hey, I have an idea for something, but I don't know how to go from like the idea right now because I haven't written a book in a while. Like, Small Town was a very different writing process than I
mhm.
normally would do. So I'm like, am I a pantser? Am I a planner? I haven't regularly written until
Yeah.
maybe a year ago. I wasn't a writer for very long. I'm a very new ongoing writer in the way of like having it be part of my daily, weekly life. I was reading Play Nice and I'm just like, the velvet, delightful, delicious way that Rachel puts words on a page and makes a scene. I'm
Uh-huh.
just like, I know she's been writing a long time, but you read people like that and you're newer and you're like, oh fuck, like I don't want to be her, but I want to be able to write as good as her, not in her way,
Uh-huh.
because that's her way and my way is my way. But I'm like, I don't think I'm not even close to that. But people like my book, so that's good. But like you get daunted, then you read someone that's not as well known. You're like, hey, I think I might be like better than that person. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean like it's like you find yourself on the scale. But when you read a lot of authors who've been authors for a very long time, who aren't new, you're like, oh, I got a long way to go.
Well, I feel like, I'm like a massive analogy person or I think in pictures, but like how many different shops across the country make pizza? And
Right.
it's like,
Right.
but for some reason we want to try them all and we want to take like, and there's a little bit of a
Yeah.
different take on each one. And you're right. Like Rachel makes an awesome pizza, but so do you. It's just
Right.
your own different, it's different style for it.
And it's funny, we've talked to Brian, and Brian is like so meticulous. Like he draws out in storyboards like
Right.
what's happening in his book. So it's amazing
Yeah.
the different ingredients and ways
That's
people
it.
do things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And so
and
that's how I find
Brian
it is
is
like, you're just like, oh, this one tastes really good, or I'm in the mood for this type of pizza tonight versus this one. And so I can easily see how imposter syndrome comes in, very fast because every writing style is so amazing, but you should be really proud of yourself
Mhm.
because what you wrote is, I mean, if you're saying you're not a regular writer, like I'm fooled, I wouldn't have known because like it was really, really good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, and I,
And
I think I really appreciate that. I do. And I do think I've come a long way, even just between Hiding Lies and Small Town. But like it is really interesting. Like Brian's way of writing is actually something I'm doing, maybe not to his extent, but he says he starts with a scene,
mm,
like a very vague scene outline, and then he does a more in-depth scene outline. Because the other day I was like, that's how Small Town started. Because my husband's like, why are you focusing so much on what other writers are doing for their outlining and stuff? I'm like, because I don't know what to do because I've only truly like written one book in the last 10 years. Like, I mean, Hiding Lies was so long ago. Small Town I wrote way more recently. So it makes sense. That one's in my head. But that one started over the panic and horror of what happened in November. So I wrote Small Town between the election and the inauguration because I was just completely needed to be consumed by something. So I read,
absolutely. I binge watched Schitt's Creek during
yeah,
that.
yeah. And I think I wrote,
Same
my goal
difference.
every day was 1,500 words. And I made sure to
Okay.
hit it before I went to bed every day. So like going into this book, I'm like, well, what should I do? How should I do this? But I think the scene thing, going back to that, because that's what that's how Small Town started. I had a scene of what I wanted to write. And then I
Mm-hmm.
wrote that and I was like, shoot, this is
Mm-hmm.
not going to be long enough. So I have to kind of build around this part of this book that I really, really love and add in more. So then I added in more and I used a kind of a whiteboard, just kind of going around with ideas. But this time I started with one scene. And then Brian's like, I don't write a lot on the cards, because I was like, doesn't your arm get tired? He's like, no, I don't write that much on the cards. It's more on the computer later. But when I was writing the cards, I'd write like where it took place and turn over the card. And I was like, on the last part of the card, I'm like, yes, I'm writing again. Yes, yes, yes.
That's
So it
awesome.
actually is a really fun way to write, because right now I just carry my index cards in my hoodie or my pocket or wherever I am. And I also do what Abby Jimenez, who's a romance writer, who said at a conference recently that she wrote one of her books on her phone, almost the
I
whole book
saw
on her
that.
phone. It's
Yes,
great because it is
I
like, and
saw
I do
that.
right before bed. I put 2 paragraphs in my phone now. I'm not, the first time it's like, I have to sit here and write. And now I'm like, the world is burning. I can't do that anymore. I need to adjust.
Mm,
Okay.
mm.
Paragraph here, a couple paragraphs here, a couple scenes here. It's going to end up being wonderful book. And having people that I care about read my stuff, like I don't care if she ever listens to this and she hears it. She's amazing. When CJ Lee blurbed Hiding Lies, I sobbed. I just started crying, because Mayfly is one of my favorite books of all time. So for her to write what she wrote about, like, it's on the front cover of the next of the new edition, author version, Stephanie's version. But like, I was so moved by that. And then I love American Rapture. And then I ended up buying two of I don't want to talk about this because I'm sad about you guys getting Rachel's book, but I have annotated copies of Mayfly and American Rapture, and I got
That's
them
See,
because
awesome.
she was
we're jealous of
donating the
that.
money. Huh? Yeah. And
I said
then
we're
I
jealous of
saw,
that.
but like maybe we can like play like swapsies, like so that we have insurance on each
Yeah.
other's annotated. Cause I was like, maybe they'll
Mm-hmm.
let me borrow it, but I know that's a big thing to like, I'm like, maybe if I send them my annotated Mayfly or American Rapture, cause I just want to read it.
Yeah.
I'll go through and just take photos of all of it and
There
send it
you
back.
go.
But that is my favorite Rachel book. Like, I've read it 5 times. I am obsessed with that book. And I have my husband, that's his first Rachel book he read. And he just
Oh my
finished it and he really
God.
enjoyed it. So like and I go to the Twisted Spine thing and I'm scrolling down. I'm like, it's gone. And I cried. I was such a loser. I'm like, oh
No.
my God.
Sorry.
No, sorry, not sorry. No, I totally
No,
get
it's
it.
funny because like So Thirsty, I feel like it changed my entire perspective on like what I
Yeah.
want to do with my life, like and
Okay,
how I
real
want to
quick
live
for
it.
our listeners, we won through
Kickstarter campaign.
an annotated copy of Rachel Harrison's "So Thirsty,"
Yes.
and obviously Stephanie was trying to do the same thing. And so, okay, now that they're caught up,
Yes.
okay, go ahead. So it changed your life.
No,
Yes.
it just completely changed my perspective on how you're supposed to live your life, what you're supposed to sort of accept, because I think that we're taught, and obviously her books, they talk about them being feminist horror and all that kind of stuff. And we had a conversation with Rachel about how that's both true and also diminishing at the same time. Because
Yeah.
I definitely went
Yeah.
into that book and like obviously I am not a woman, but I got the same thing where it's just like you're not supposed to make yourself small and waste your life because someone else tells you you have to. And I think that like
Fuck
that
yeah.
really affected the shit out of me, like reading that book where it's like I'm making these choices to not have the best life. And when it ends, it ends. So what am I doing?
This is
Mm-hmm.
crazy because from the time you read that, like I didn't put that together, but you
Mhm.
started setting all these new boundaries. Like you did though.
Yeah.
Like you were like, no, like fuck that. Like I'm not, I'm
I
not
love
going to
that
this.
so
Like
much.
if they're gonna sit there and they're gonna talk like right wing shit at a birthday party, like I'm not going.
Don't go. Yeah.
And I'm like, and I'm happy for you and whatnot. I just wanted to touch back on where you said like, looking at the other writers' processes and stuff. I come from, more of like a corporate background, but a lot of times like you're willing to say like, hey, what's the best process for this? Like, and there's a lot of sharing and people are willing to say,
Yes.
well, this is how I approach it. And so I feel like that's just what you're doing is like, let me try on a lot of different styles and expose myself and see what like fits best for me because you clearly have the talent and the ideas. It's just a matter of like, how do you roll it out? And,
Right.
So I was gonna say, like, Adam and I like were in college at the same time, and he like would just write a paper so fast, and I'm like, what are you doing? That it's not like I didn't do the work or wasn't smart or
Right.
anything. And his approach was, he's like, you pick out the quotes that you need, and you get every quote you need, and then you write your paper around the quotes. Where I was doing the ass backwards, I was writing the whole paper and then trying to find quotes to fit in.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was like, that changed my whole approach as to how fast
Mhm.
I could get a paper done. And now I'm never worried about writing a paper anymore because like I found a good flow and a process. So I feel like as you try on different things, and if like the Brian McCauley style and you're saying you saw that for your other book, it's like, then maybe that is your way to go about
Yeah.
it. And
No, it
I
really
love that
did.
for you.
He didn't even thank you. He didn't even say, like, that much either. Like, I just said, "Hey," and I asked him a very specific question because I would love him to be my mentor, but I know he has a lot going on. He's his own he's a professor and stuff. But, like, but if I have a specific question, he's awesome, and he'll definitely still do that. And so for this one, I was like, "So, idea in your head, what gets you to actually be writing, like, full out writing lots of stuff about the book?" And then he said that's what he said. He said, "Scene by scene outline, then followed by," I think that's exactly what he said. But, like,
Yeah.
it was
And then
whatever
he
way he
said he
said,
really likes
I
to like get to know his characters then. Like he's like, well,
yes.
who are they? What are they about? Yeah.
Yeah. And I say that a lot to my book group and my husband. I'm like, "This I could there's such an incredible power and interesting dynamic when you write. Like you write a girl, she's coming out of her house, she's wearing a white shirt, JK, she's wearing a hoodie. Oh wait, she's getting into whatever car and what oh no, now it's fall, now it's snowing. And you just like for me, I write cinematically because that's the way I read. I see it.
Mm.
So if I see it, I want other people to see it. And so when like research a book, I consume all media for it, not just reading books, like not just reading other slashers, but I also watched almost every single slasher ever numerous times because something would happen on the screen and I'm like, I want that in the book somewhere. That's amazing. Or I want that tweaked in the book somewhere. That's really cool. And then of course there's nods to other things too. Like there's definitely a lot of nostalgia in small town slasher, but there is a lot of scenes that I was like, ooh, I could do this. And then like one extra step would make it even better, you know? And I just love media for that reason. And I think that's why I love Brian's writing so much is because Brian McCauley he's a screenwriter too.
Hmm.
So I think that really does play into it. So when I asked him what books he'd recommend, he definitely said that he focuses more on screenwriting books than writing books. So I actually got a collection of books that I've liked some of them, not like some of them, but the ones that focus more on horror or screenwriting, I have a screenwriting horror book that's really cool that I've been looking at. But really, I want to get all my scenes down and stuff first and then go back to those books. Get everything out first and get it out on the page because that's something almost every single writer I know has said, shared with me, or just on social media that you have something in your head, get it down, do not edit, just get everything out you can first. Get it all out. Don't stop writing because if you go back and you start editing, you might lose some of the story and I really believe that, but then again that's pantsing. That is technically pantsing. That's
Hmm.
what Stephen
Hmm.
Graham's Jones does. I mean, his books seem like, they're a whole new level. But the way I love his afterwards because he talks about his writing process and it's like he won't write and then he'll write it all, and that's how Small Town was. I wrote it in such a short period of time that I think it was really helpful because everything stayed in my head so much too of the characters and how they felt and, who was going to die next, all that stuff, all that fun stuff. And I had a lot of fun writing it and it was very therapeutic at the time to have that to focus on.
I think it's really funny. Like, I've read Slasher, Small Town Slasher, and I absolutely loved it. You know that I wrote a review about it. And knowing now when you wrote it, like the way that I would describe it is like the angriest love letter or like the most loving scream into the dark. I don't know. It's like it's something because like that makes so much more sense now because like it's one of the best like love letters while being a full-blooded slasher at the same time,
Hmm.
but like your characters are so like righteously angry, and it's sort of like obviously they're in this situation where it is a slasher, people are being
Hmm.
murdered, but their reaction to it is very much like kind of reflecting of the election stuff. It's like,
Mm,
I did not choose this. It is not fair
Mhm.
that I am having to deal with this
mm.
situation. I did everything right. I do everything right, and still this is happening. And like knowing that that's kind of where it came from, I'm like, it reflects so brilliantly in that story while having some of the best kills and just scenes that just sear themselves into my psyche. And so like knowing that like you're watching these things and you're like, I'm gonna pull from that. It's like there are some scenes where I was like, this is fucked up and I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of people felt so much angst, and to know that, like you're saying, I'm like a righteously angry, like that's a character I want to read about.
Oh,
I
you
want to
yep,
read about righteous
you're
anger.
gonna love it then.
Well, and also on top of that, I'm disabled. So like I have
Mhm.
so much going on in my head, so many things I want to do, but my body's like, JK, you're not going to do that. And your mind's like, JK, you're not going to do that. So it
Yeah,
had to
a
do with the
slasher being so
election and that
scary as
and
yeah, as it is,
disability.
and
Like,
then saying
yeah.
you have chronic pain on top of that, dealing with, like, literally fighting for your life, that is
Hmm.
terrifying.
Yeah. So I think the combination of just all of that, it was like, I need to do something. I have to do something. And then I did not think I was going to write. I really, Hiding Lies was the product of me moving to Portland and freaking out that we ended up living way too close to the city. We were not comfortable living there. And I wrote that over a summer, to cope with my first few months living in the city. And I got to know it through driving around and going to these campsites and stuff for the book, researching the book. So that helped me get through that. And then this helped me get through that. And I wanted to pick somewhere that was rural because I wanted it to be a small town because I love that
Mhm,
aesthetic in any book. If it's in a quaint little town in New England or somewhere else, I'm like, yes,
mhm,
I'm much more like small town than like city books, but like I'll
Mhm.
still read them. I just don't love that setting. It's not my favorite. And so doing that and then having, the election happen and then having my, disabilities getting worse. And I'm like, I'm just so mad right now and I need to write everything out and put all of the blood on the page. And I did. And I still was able to make it kind of like an upbeat slasher, I thought.
yeah, it definitely.
It
A
has the
happy
humor of
slash.
Scream, which is good. That's
Yeah,
what you want.
Well, I love, it's the main character, is very adept and knowledgeable at slashers, Randy like, if you will. And
Yes.
but like at the same time, her frustration with the decisions people around her are making, and then also it's like, at times it's like I made the right decisions and I'm still in this really messed up situation, or like what do I do? Or my body is failing me, even though I know what I should do. Like I think you bring so many like familiar but they're so new at the same time that like anyone that loves a slasher is gonna love this, but they're gonna find things that they have not found in slashers either in this like novel renaissance or in movies
it's
too.
freaking
So
awesome. That's
I adored
awesome.
it.
Thank you.
Good for you that like you're writing all these different like that's a so fun like high praise to hear that like you'll find exactly what you want from a slasher, but like and even more, which is awesome.
That really means a lot. And I was just thinking when you were talking about that, about, like how now that I know that this was influenced by this, and I'm saying here, like it is really insane to think that I'm not going to give away anything in small town slasher, but the pool scene, I'll just say that, Adam. So the pool scene and Lydia and not Lydia, wow. Jenna. I haven't talked about Heidi Lies in a while to have both. But Jenna pool scene, all I'll say about that is if I wasn't doing aqua therapy at the time for my chronic illnesses, my disabilities, I wouldn't have even written that scene. I don't even
Oh,
know how it would have happened. That's how I got the idea for the pool.
love
And
that.
pool has another big part to the story too. To the first story that all of this took place from has
Hmm.
to do with the pool. So if
Yeah.
I hadn't been in the pool 2 times a week doing aqua therapy with my therapist, I don't think I would have written that. It's pretty wild how much what we do and what we see and what we watch and
Feeds
what we
into it.
read
Yeah.
feeds
Yeah.
into yes, feeds into what you write. And it really does.
So that just reminds me of I went to school for literature and we were studying Henry James, and like they were talking about how he knew different places and the way people talked and that kind of stuff. And he was talking about one writer, and he was talking to her and saying, "Man, you really got the language of these working class people so well. How did you do that? And she's like, oh, I walked by a restaurant they were eating in one time and listened to them. And it's
Yeah.
like, that's all it takes. And it's like, he talked about it being a spider web. And he said, to be a good writer, you just have to be one upon whom nothing is lost. And like, I
Wow.
love that,
I
that's
love that.
exactly, yeah, that's exactly what you're talking about here with the pool, where it's like,
Mhm.
you're having this and it's probably, there's probably some pain involved with it being therapy and in the pool and that stuff. And it's like, you're like, you know what? I'm going to use this for art,
Mhm.
and that thing. And it works so well.
Love that. I'm curious too how many, because I can think of like a few guests that we've had on that have written books during the election to process their pain. I'm curious how many writers we're not talking to or
Mhm.
like out there that have written something that was, you wouldn't necessarily think was directly influenced, but that everyone's like, yeah, I need to dissociate right now
Mhm.
and dig in. Like, how many do you think there are out there, Stephanie?
Oh my gosh,
Hopefully a
endless.
lot.
I think that, I
Maybe
think a
that's
lot
why
of
we're having the
people.
renaissance with writing
Well,
that we are
and I
having.
mean,
Before.
yeah, I mean, I think a lot
Yes.
more people are writing now, but also it's just like for me at least, I can't talk for all writers, but I think that either they're writing or, they're editing or something. But for me, it's like starting this next book, it's like I have this in my mentality of like, what's the point? Why am I even this is so trivial compared to what's happening. But then I work on this with my therapist every week that like, we are all in the middle of a traumatic event. This is
Mhm.
going to lead to PTSD for everyone, legit
Mhm.
PTSD, because we're all going through it like we all went through COVID. And
Mhm.
right now we're going through all this in different levels because it's happening in different levels and we're not seeing everything that's going on and things are happening depending on where you are and what color your skin is and where you were born. So it's not going to affect everyone the same. And at
Right.
first I was really upset that I didn't see more people posting about it using their platforms and I still think more authors could do it, but I do understand that some people just need that separation for their professional life. Like if they want to be an
Mhm.
author, they're just going to be an author and like they're going to focus on that and, sharing about whatever they're doing and they're not going to share about this stuff. But, I think that it's really just however everybody needs art. Everybody needs people to be creating right
Mhm.
now. So I don't care how anyone wants to process it. If it's hey, I want to keep Instagram to be my happy place, that's how you're gonna cope. That's how you're gonna cope. Everyone's going through the stages of grief because we're grieving what we could have had,
Mhm.
which was hope for a good future with somebody who actually was, we find out now, elected. And actually, I still cannot believe that she actually had the votes. It's just insane. But we had
Wait,
hope.
what?
And then yeah, there's been quite a few now talking about how the election actually did show that Harris won.
I'm not freaking surprised at all.
Yeah.
And
I
I'm just
mean,
was
it
like, I
it
would know,
seems
like
so
I've been
strange.
waiting for this day to happen
Mhm.
to hear this.
Right.
But I mean, it started for me when there was like the whole like, I don't even need you to vote. Like it's gonna be
Right.
fine. And I'm
Right.
like, oh, this is some shady shit. But you know, that day of like finding out everything with the
Yeah.
results, it happened to be that my aunt died that day too.
Oh my
So I feel
gosh.
like I knew she was like towards the end of life, but it helped me to like, in a way, like refocus my feelings some.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I was just, scrolling videos and you're just like, the whole Mr. Rogers, like, look for the helpers. Like, what are other people saying? And
Right.
it's like the couple of women that I came across on like TikTok and whatnot were like, this lesson is not for us. It's like this lesson is for others. So when Adam, when you're sitting there and you're saying like, this is bullshit. Like I didn't choose these things. I don't want to learn this lesson. And it's like,
Mhm.
I don't either, like at all.
Right.
And yet you're like stuck on this ride as if you are in like COVID again. And, you're just like, holy
Well,
shit.
it's
You,
like what you said when you read, you feel claustrophobic. Like right now, I feel claustrophobic. Like we tried, we looked,
Mhm.
we don't feel safe where we're living right now. So we're moving. We're actually moving in a few weeks to more North Washington so we can
well,
be closer to Canada and be in a safer neighborhood than we are now because we
I'm
do not think
glad.
we're going to be safe soon because Seattle's going to be overrun and we don't want to be here for that. And
Yeah.
things are happening in Portland too. But like Seattle's like only an hour and only one ferry right away. And we're like, that's too close. So we're moving about 2.5 hours north of Seattle. And I'm getting there so quickly because one, it's open. And two, I have a lot of things to ship in September.
That is
So,
true.
I mean, but like we looked at Canada, we looked at different places. We like legit took our time and actually looked at how could we get into Canada? No. Like all of these things, like even it just, and I have health issues. I can't be traveling here and there, whatever. So it's just like, it's this, where do you want to feel like you are going to ride out the end of the world, or at least the end of the next 3 to 5 years until we get a takeover? I rewatched Handmaids because the new season came out, and I'm freaking out looking back on and just watching these flashbacks that June has. And I'm like, this is happening right now. And so many people are not either. I think they're just in their bubbles, and that's why I did started horror highlights, and it almost got 10,000 views on this last
Wow.
one. And it makes me so happy because that's all I mean. I don't need every single person that I look up to writing wise to talk about things every day. That is what political advisors are for. That's for all these people that are doing it. There are people doing that every day. We are not taking this seriously enough right now.
Mhm.
I think even in the horror world, I'm like, we're planning for StokerCon, and one of the cities that might be taken over
Yeah.
by National Guard, and no one's addressing it. American Booksellers is not, Horror Writers is not. I just like even associations that we're with, I feel like we need to start talking about this. We need to start talking about safety if you're going to go to
Yeah.
these book signings. If these
Mhm.
authors are going to show up, which is a risk. I don't like that Darcy Coates is coming in from Australia. I'm happy that she's doing a tour, but that's very dangerous to me.
Mhm.
New Zealand, I believe. I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
misspoke. But I'm concerned about all those things and no one's addressing them.
Right.
That concerns me because I care. I care about you, and I care. That's why I ask a lot of my Facebook friends, my new community friends, like that I know are good people. Like, are you safe? Are you okay? Do you need help? Because I don't know where you live, and I don't know how your neighborhood particularly is. And I am a person that I'm in an apartment right now, and I'm moving to a place that has an extra room that's going to be the cat room. But there's a many people that if they needed somewhere to go, we would invite them in, no problem, because we
Yeah.
care. So
Oh, that's amazing.
I care about the authors that I look up to. I care about that they live in New York or wherever they live, LA, it's just anywhere, it's but again, like I just feel like people like need to share more. And it means that we're not alone too. We can use this online community to get to be together.
Yeah.
And we saw a lot of that right before the election. We saw like the horror thing that they did for
Mhm.
Kamala. That was great.
Yep.
But where are they now? Where are these people
Mhm.
now when
Yeah.
we need them to know that they're thinking about this too? So, okay, sorry, got on my little soapbox. You can edit out
No, that's
any
a
of that
really
you
good
want.
point. After your last one, I told you, like, I grew up in Washington, DC.
Yeah. And you have
Part
friends
of
there
being
still.
Yeah, and part of being there is this weird sense of not having any autonomy because 'cause we're not a state,
Mm-hmm.
we're not,
Right.
whatever, and so there's a small part, our license plates say taxation without representation on it, because we don't have any representatives in the Senate and
Right.
Congress, and we have a council of people from other states making laws and saying what is allowed to happen in the city. And so, like, of course that's the first one that they take over, right? But
Mm-hmm.
that is a beta test for what they want to do everywhere else. And to
Right.
not understand that is like your own peril if you live in one of
Mm-hmm.
these major cities that this administration doesn't like,
Yeah.
period.
Right.
So, no, I love that you're doing that, and, I think, and Rebecca can attest to this, but, right before COVID, and different things, she was like, "We need to get prepared." And at that time, I
Mm-hmm.
was very much like, "Oh, come on, you
No,
don't
you
have to."
were really decent about
No,
it.
but I was still
Maybe you didn't
I
share.
allowed you,
You did.
kind of thing. I was like, "Okay, we'll do it," but it
You were
certainly
like, if
wasn't
you
on
think
my
it's
mind.
right.
And
Yes.
it's like now I'm like, "No, this is like the new way to behave, like to be
Mm-hmm.
prepared at all times for,
Hmm.
whether it's weather, whether it's, a lack
Which
of
I took care of.
electricity. Yeah,
Yeah.
all of those kinds of things. It's like you
Mm-hmm.
need to make
I
sure
wouldn't
that
say that
you
I took
are.
care of it the way that a lot of people, because
Mhm.
this is when the Ukraine war
Yeah.
started.
Right.
But the problem is like, it's anxiety inducing because,
Mhm.
I mean, I don't look, we're not made of money. And to say like,
Right.
oh, you have X amount of jugs of water or
Mhm.
something, like I started using them then. So like, and
Yeah.
then like, we were like, oh, well, hey, we need, you know, these wipes or something, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it's like I don't
You
really
get comfortable
yeah,
again
I
for
don't really
certain things.
have
Mm-hmm.
it. It's not really set up like that anymore,
Mhm.
And I'm very much like, I don't have a firearm. It's like that's never been something, but
Mhm.
now I'm like, do I need to have one?
Yeah,
And it's interesting because a lot of my
Yeah.
liberal friends are like,
starting to do
they
that.
do.
Yeah.
And so, no, I think what you're bringing up is worthwhile to discuss. And, Adam, I just think of, you're saying like you're in the city, but like, okay, but there's leases, you have a lease, you have a home, you have a
Mhm.
job. It's like, I get what you're saying. It's like at their peril, but like, it's not that easy to move
Oh,
out.
I'm not saying just leave, but I'm saying get
Be
prepared.
aware.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cause it is like that. And I think it is the beta test
Mhm.
and whatnot.
And,
So
like, at least from what I see, there's not a whole lot of pushback or noise
no,
about it as much as I would think about something like this
right.
happening, which is sad.
Right. And we have a lot of literature and a lot of things to look back on and find it. And, I'm not going to say it doesn't make me nervous to just even make this podcast,
For who's
Yeah.
listening, yeah.
because it feels like I'm putting a target on myself.
Yeah,
But at the same time, I feel like I have to be able to live with myself and say,
did something, said something.
And that's one of the reasons why I posted my first one. I'm like, I knew that ICE was coming to Seattle. And I said to Ken, I said, I need to do something. And I got choked up because I said, if I post this and even one person tells one person in Seattle that they're coming and they don't go out that night, they might not be in a detention center that's not feeding them
Mhm.
tomorrow.
right,
That's how
right,
I look at it. I'm not trying to do that for clicks or whatever. It's a black and white, like very clear. And I like that I do just the headlines because you know what? I get it. Some people don't want to read all the article. And for me, this is like a nice way you're not going to keep scrolling. It's
right.
just quick things. And it's sad that I leave it to 5 because there's so many more than 5 now. And again, that comes back to everybody is going through grief and trauma right now, and the news is so overwhelmed with everything that they can't even, like, when did we stop reporting on the official, I believe in it was Minnesota or Wisconsin, that was gunned in her home?
Yeah.
Like that was out of the news cycle within a day. And it's not
Oh.
because anyone cared. It was because there was so many other bad things going
I
on.
hear
Mhm.
that
And we're
that's
just
like
like,
part
that's
of
the new normal. And
that's
Right.
it's
part
it's
of the
just
like disorient everyone so
That's
that they
right. It
yeah,
can't
the
is.
focus
fascist
on anything.
playbook.
Yeah.
Great. So, I'm just happy there are people like you out there. There are authors that we love. There's, movies being made still. We're still getting art to distract. And I do think that everybody should distract, but I also think that we should all be aware as well.
Yep, absolutely. Well, this was wonderful. I am so happy we were able to connect and talk, and I hope we'll be able to do so again when it gets closer to Small Town Slasher actually coming out, which is in March. But
Yes.
the author's preferred version of Hiding Lies is September 9th, is that correct?
Yes.
And
And
Twisted
drum roll,
Tales to Tell in the Night, yeah?
Twisted Tales to Tell in the Night, a Halloween horror anthology coming to you on September 16th.
And I
Frights
So,
am
and
dang, are you
fun
going?
sized
Yep.
tales.
Yes, and
You're
I am knee deep in that anthology right now and absolutely loving it. I love how the authors have taken this sort of inspiration of those stories from the 90s, turn them
hmm
into adult stories, turn them into like each one has their own flavor and feel. I think the stories that you have chosen to be in here, they're definitely ones that you can just kind of sit with some friends for and tell each one in a few minutes at a time. I think it's wonderful. I love everything I've read so
Yeah, I'm
far.
pretty sure you said you were going to read them to me aloud while you rubbed my feet.
I
That was really
at
nice of
least
you.
the first part for sure.
You have to read her Sugar Booger out loud. Booger
Oh
Sugar, I
yeah.
always
Call
forget
him
which way it
Sugar
is.
Booger. How many
Is it
years have
Sugar
I?
Booger? Yeah.
Okay.
Oh
Oh
I
well,
am
boy.
going to talk
ever
to
since
Clay and I'm gonna
Judy
ask him if he'll
Neutron.
do some live with me with
I
that.
love
I
that.
really want him to do it because, like, I'm sure he would do it way better than me. But I
Yes.
grossed out my husband because he's really like there's certain fluids and things that affect him, and
So good. I
but
love
boogers
that
is the
story.
worst. It's so
Renee
gross.
Yes, Renee Thomason's story came out of
Yes,
nowhere and like hit me. Uh
I
S.
love that
Lawrence, who,
one.
we love. I love
Yes,
BS's. That's such a cool idea of
it is.
this
Spook
there's
Alley. Yeah,
oh,
there
I
is
love that.
some
And it's
incredible stories. I am
yes,
so happy
definitely.
and proud of
Ryan's
these
story is so
authors.
good. Yes.
Chef's kiss.
Yep.
I said, well, that's going to be that's going to be the last one,
Yes.
definitely.
The anchor.
Not just the name of it, but because of the story itself, it just was the perfect
Yep.
end of the anthology. And I'm so honored that that some of my favorite authors were able to be and willing, wanting, excited to be in this anthology. Yes,
Amazing, and
that's going to
I
be
hope that
great.
this becomes like a, if not annual, other different twisted tales of all kinds of
Well,
different
the
things.
volume
Look forward to
2,
it.
we
Yes,
had so many people interested and we had so many authors that we actually are doing a volume 2, and it will come out in Summerween 2026. So all the
amazing.
people that did this open call, we have more authors in Brianna Morgan, Lee Kenny,
Nice.
Haley Newland. They have
Yeah,
stories coming out in the summer ween. So that once this ramps up, I'll release more about that later. But yeah, I'm really excited that we're gonna have one summer ween. And then it's a hope of every year is gonna be exactly what I
perfect.
do with the anthology, and
Amazing.
hope to do one other publication through the press since I have the bookshop and I write. I want to do one novel or novella and one anthology every year. That's my goal.
Yes. Perfect.
Yeah.
And if you have any books that you need to order, if you don't have, or even if you do, Death by TBR Books is awesome. You always get really cool stuff. Are you doing another Halloween, like, blind box kind of thing like you did last
Yeah,
year too?
that's already up for order right now. We didn't get
Yes.
very many people that are going for it, but a lot of people have pre-ordered Twisted Tales, so maybe that's what they're doing instead. But yeah, we have a
Okay.
Halloween horror and a Creepmas book package that we do between, now and the end of the year. I'm really excited about
Awesome.
that too. And our
Very nice.
Sad
Where
Girl
can
Summer is still going on until the end of the
the
summer.
sale, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So where do we find you? Store, all that kind of stuff. Where can people find you online?
Death by TBRbooks.com and StephanieRoseWriter.com. And those are the same tags I have on Instagram. Instagram is where I'm at most of the time. Same handles.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, and I hope you have a
Thank you.
wonderful
Thank
rest of your
you.
day, and we look forward to talking again soon.
Yeah, thank you
Bye,
so much for
Stephanie.
having me.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.